has been committed. I am not accusing the President of the United States of any crime. We have to further this investigation to determine who, where, when, and why these documents were what we feel forged. My challenge is where to take these findings. Now, I'm an ex-federal guy, 30 years as a top federal law enforcement official. I know a little about the federal government. What other governmental entities have jurisdiction over this matter? I have a little concern with that. I'm considering asking the Hawaii authorities to look into this, but as my investigators and I feel, will they really do it? Would they do an independent investigation, fair, honest, professional? I don't know. So where do I go next? Well, we have the United States Congress. Do I ask for a congressional investigation, bipartisan? We'll have to decide where to go. These are two alleged crimes, forgery and fraud. Those responsible, whoever they are, should be brought to justice. I don't care who they are, and if I'm being criticized for enforcing the law on felonies, there's something wrong. So the President's name is out there, his birth certificate is out there. I want to find out if there is any forgery or fraud. That's my job, and we're going to pursue it. If nothing else comes out of this investigation today, if it all fails, or in the future, what we have learned, I think all of us has really learned something over this. We need a better process to vet people running for President of the United States of America, if nothing else comes out of this. I'm very, I want to thank my professional posse, you especially, Mike.
Thank you.
And we have other expertise. I think you forgot one thing. We have sworn affidavits from many, many people all over the world on this matter. We're just not picking stuff out of the sky that people have been reading over and over again. This investigation is not over. So we're going to continue to do our job. I will continue as the elected sheriff of Maricopa County to do our job and see where it takes us. You have any questions?
Let me hit that one. Thank you, Sheriff. I did neglect to tell you about that. We do have numerous sworn affidavits of people willing to step forward and tell their truth. We have vetted these people. Going back to the overseas birth, I am just going to share one with you. I am not going to give you any names, and I apologize for not doing this sooner. We have a retired government employee who had a conversation in the 80s with Barack Obama in the front yard of the home of the mother of Bill Ayers. Y'all know Bill Ayers. During that conversation, the mother of Bill Ayers introduced this government employee to Mr. Obama as a foreign student who they were assisting in getting education for in the United States. That also is around the same time frame that this selective service card was issued, purportedly issued. This individual is willing to come forward. That takes courage. There are too many things in the background that we cannot clear. And what I did tell the sheriff, I could not come to him and say he cleared a background to be an employee of the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office. There's just too much missing information. We're asking, please fill in the blanks. Help us. This is not where we wanted to go. This is just where it's taking us. And I apologize again for not bringing that to you.
You have any questions for
Sheriff, you're
Mike?
saying that you're not accusing the sheriff or the president himself of any kind of forgery or breaking law. Yet you are accusing him of basically living a lie.
What was that?
You're not accusing him of a crime, but it appears you're accusing him of living a lie.
No, I don't know about that. I didn't say that. We don't know who the perpetrators are on these documents.
Of the crime, exactly.
Yes.
But he has said over and over again he was born in Hawaii. He is living as the president of our United States,
Okay.
knowing what the laws are. So you're
Okay.
basically saying he's living a lie.
Let him prove it then. Show me the microfilm. Let him prove it. I'm not accusing him of any lying or crime. I say we have documents that seem to be forged. That's a violation of the law. I don't care who did that. We're investigating those crimes.
But he knows what the law is, and he's living as our president. So we're basically saying that what he's doing, he's perpetrating a lie by being our president.
I didn't say that.
Well, wait a second, Sheriff. You are in fact saying that he is serving illegally as the President of the United States.
I never said that.
Well, if you...
I never said that. We're talking about a birth certificate, and he can present other information proving that he was born here. I'm just talking about a birth certificate, possible forgery and fraud. That's all.
Well, let me ask you a question, Sheriff. Mr. Obama's been president for 3.5 years. This issue has been debated up, down, sideways. Documents have been out there. At the risk of being a pain in the butt, why should I believe that the sheriff of one county in Arizona has more evidence than folks from 50 states who have been looking at this? Clearly, some of them with an eye on...
Does anybody ever come up with this information? Show it to me. Who has come up with this information? No one.
Sheriff Joe,
Until we did it.
in light of the findings of the cold case Posse investigation, is it not reasonable for Americans to conclude that having fraudulently been misrepresented as eligible to be president by whosoever committed that crime, Mr. Soetoro or Obama is, even now, proceeding in the crimes against the highest law, in the commission of the crimes against the highest law of the nation, the crime of conspiracy
You don't want to go there.
to and contravening of the Constitution, as well as the criminal usurpation of the presidency.
Look, I'm a law enforcement guy. When I started this, I gave it to the Case Posse. I just responded to 250 people. They asked me to look at it. I was hoping probably that we could resolve a lot of these problems with the president and get this issue away, forget it. But it's not my problem they came up with this information and documentation. What do you do with it? Do I just throw it in the wastebasket and forget it? I'm not accusing anyone of anything until we find out who may have committed these alleged crimes over this birth certificate and the selected service card. That came to our attention. What do? I don't care who it is. Someone did it, if it's false, and I think we made a pretty good case here. When you say that 50 states have looked at this, okay, show me how far they went, and show me any law enforcement agency that looked into it, Howie. So don't go telling me I'm the only sheriff to look into it.
Explain why, as an Arizona lawman,
The what?
with jurisdiction here in Maricopa County, it falls to you to investigate the birth of the president of Hawaii.
Yeah, you want to do it? I got the law here too. We'll explain it for you.
Let me try to put this in the proper context for you. The sheriff is the sheriff of Maricopa County. You all know that. And I could use myself as a personal example. I am a resident of Maricopa County. I live in one of the districts that the Maricopa County Sheriff services. The fact that this document was created, and we believe it's created, we are not accusing Mr. Obama of creating this document. I want to make that really clear. We are not doing that. I don't know if the man knows. I don't know anything really about Mr. Obama's involvement, if any, and I don't believe there is, in anything having to do with this. That being said, when the White House took an electronic document after prodding for 10 months, and I believe it was Donald Trump who was carrying the torch, calling it a fraud, finally the White House produces a document. But the truth of the matter is they didn't produce a document. They produced an electronic file. And I don't have the time here to go back and tell you the convoluted story getting to that. But the fact that that document was put up on the website of the White House for distribution to anyone in the country, the world who wanted to see it, was a representation made to the people of Maricopa County, including a press conference where the president himself attests that this is my document proof positive. You fraud one person in Maricopa County with that, you fraud every person in Maricopa County. Subsequently, you fraud every person in the 14 other counties. That incorporates the state of Arizona. Keep going. You know where it ends up. It's the whole nation. He is looking out on behalf of residents of Maricopa County. The sheriff has told you he would like a congressional investigation.
Okay, one more question here. Sheriff Arpaio, could you address directly the issue whether this is politically motivated, given that you're being investigated by the Justice Department?
Well, we started this investigation 6 months ago before the Justice Department released a 22-page report in a press conference in December. It has nothing to do with politics. I said from the beginning that I want the truth. I don't care where it falls. In fact, if we could prove that the president, that birth certificate was real, he was born here, I would be very happy with that. Very happy. But we have obstacles here. What do I do with this? What's politics have to do with it? I don't need this for politics. I guarantee you.
Sheriff, let me come back to Mr. Zullo's point here. He is saying that Barack Obama, A, stood up and said, this is my birth certificate. B, the White House put it up. They're back to the earlier question. If A and B are true, then C is true that you are in fact accusing the president of lying. And B, the White House of being engaged in a conspiracy. Since he swore, he said, this is my birth certificate, and you're saying that appears not to be the case.
I didn't say that. Once again, we're looking at a birth certificate and see if it's a legal document. That's all.
You're saying,
let's see what happens from there.
But you're saying it's forged. You're saying the White House put a forged birth certificate on the World Wide Web. True?
Answer that. He can answer that a little better.
After what you've seen here today, you have to come to the conclusion that the document is manufactured. It's got links and it's got layers. And it was put up on the White House website. I'm going to go one step farther for you. We have identified the computer manufacturer, where that document resided 20 minutes before it was uploaded onto the White House website. It was sitting in a computer. It is built, manufactured by layers. If it wasn't, we would have told you. We showed you how it should have looked. The fact that the President of the United States is saying that this is his does not mean we are accusing him of creating this or having any hand in this. We're not. You're jumping to that conclusion. We would like to find the individuals who did it. We would actually like to start with the person who pressed the upload button and work backwards. We'll probably find them.
Mr. Zullo, you're seeking transparency, and
yes.
So are we. So in the interest of transparency, can you talk about your political affiliation? Are you a Tea Party member? Are you a Republican?
No, I am a Republican. I am a Republican. I'm not a Tea Party member. And I'll give you my funny little story. This was not on my radar screen. This issue was out there. I don't know really, at that point, really much about it. I didn't know who Jerry Corsi was. The name was familiar. But I'm not a political junkie. It'll be a little comical. I was literally sitting in front of my computer eating a bowl of Cheerios when I was asked to come down and see the sheriff. This was not on my radar screen. I was the one who led this investigation trying to validate the document. Attorney O'Rourke is in the audience and she could testify to that. For 3-4 weeks of our meetings, I want to validate this thing. I didn't want this to happen, but it did.
Sheriff, if I can just ask you a quick question. You say this is not politically motivated. In a county that has as much going on right now with immigration and everything else, which you've been at the forefront of, what is your motivation for pursuing this as doggedly as you are?
I'll tell you why. It may be corny to you. One thing that I'm not going to criticize you, it's really interesting. You come up with evidence and all you want, you don't care about all that. You just want to know what motivations are. I guess every time I do an investigation, there must be a motivation why I went. Okay, I'm going to answer it. I'm going to answer the question. It's very simple. In my heart, I'm an elected sheriff. I served the 4 million people in this county. When 250 people come up to me and say, Sheriff, you're the chief law enforcement officer, will you look into it? I'm not going to throw it in a wastebasket and forget it. So I did look into it, but so you can't criticize me and say, Sheriff, you're spending all the taxpayers' money. What did I do? I gave it to my volunteer posse. It didn't cost 1 penny for what they have come up with. Not 1 penny.
And in a county of 4 million people, 250 people should constitute this much fanfare?
Sometimes it takes one person to open up an investigation.
Your office has been accused of mishandling hundreds of sex crimes and overlooking other investigations. Why prioritize this for the cold case posse?
I didn't prioritize anything. They're free.
What else are you working
No,
on?
hold on. You're talking about something that occurred 5 years ago that we took care of, and you keep bringing that up. I do all different types of investigation. I think this is a pretty important investigation. I think it's really important. So to compare what I do, that's not fair.
Sheriff, did you not have a recent meeting with the Justice Department regarding the investigation into claims of racism and felony discrimination? I mean, I'm glad that our attention is on the birth certificate.
You know, what's that got to do with this?
Can you tell us more about that?
No, I'm not. This has to do with the President of the United States. I'm not talking about the Justice Department.
Why are we not talking about the meeting?
Why would I have to? This is what this is for. I have no problems with the Justice Department.
Have you not met recently with them regarding that investigation?
I'm not going to talk about it. That's another situation.
Sheriff, are you sheriff? It's a federal felony to create a U.S. Postal Service indicia. And I was wondering if you're going to turn this over to the U.S. Postal investigators who would investigate a felony of this nature.
So am I going to turn this over to the federal investigators?
The federal postal
Oh, okay. Or the Attorney General? Should I turn it over to the Attorney General of the United States? Haven't decided where to go with this yet. And that's going to be a big decision that I have to make, but I can't let it die. We have evidence, we went public, I just can't forget it now. So if someone is going to have to look at it. So I have to make that decision. That's a tough decision to make.
You say you're not accusing the president of a crime. Who are you accusing of this crime?
I'm not accusing anybody until we
You said
determine.
a crime doesn't just happen.
I haven't accused anybody. We haven't found that out. Give us some time to find it out.
To perpetrate the forgery and the fraud, though, right?
The what?
The forgery and the fraud which you allege happened on
Yeah,
the birth certificate
right,
and
okay.
the selective service code.
Yes.
You've said you're not accusing the president. Who are you?
I'm not accusing anybody.
Well, how does it happen then?
Because we're going to find out who did it. We don't have the person yet. What do you mean accusing anybody? That's what we're working to find out who did it. Then we'll talk about it.
Find out who did it.
Pardon?
What are you going to do next to find out who did it?
I just said I'm going to have to make a decision whether to have congressional hearings or turn it over to an appropriate law enforcement agency, whether it's in Hawaii or overseas, and make that decision.
Sheriff Joe, referencing your comments about the mother's house of Bill Ayers and the comments that your witness has being introducing the young Obama
We got.
That was me.
as a...
We're only going to take a couple more questions, and you can answer that.
What about Occidental, Columbia, and Harvard University? Wouldn't they have a duty to release that information if he was attending their schools as a foreign student in defense of the Constitution? Wouldn't they have a...
Part of the ongoing discussions with the sheriff is to determine what other documentation we think we could successfully secure.
Let me say one thing. You're asking questions. I don't know who you are. I'm not going to criticize you, but you personify what a lot of people are talking about, that have been talking about for what, 2-3 years, whatever it is. And I'm staying away from that. I just wanted to get the facts of this situation. We've been doing this investigation. We have quite a bit more information, but I'm not going to go public on innuendos or anything else unless we have good evidence, good probable cause. So that's why I'm just sticking with these issues and not answering all the other questions that have been up in the universe, as you all know. I'm just sticking to this. And we get this over with, then we'll decide what to do.
This person was just to authenticate the document, not to say where he was born or...
That's the, you're correct on that. We came up with possible crimes. We're going to investigate that. And the crimes happen to be, alleged crimes, happen to deal with a birth certificate and a card, an immigration card. But we, during the course of this, naturally come up with much more information on the president's situation. But I'm not going to get into that right now. I'm just sticking with this. I think the media should understand the evidence we have right now and stick with that. And then see what happens as we try to solve this case, Mark, and find out who did it. It's just like any other criminal investigation.
I'm just wondering, though, and this is, you can jump in on this too if you want to. If this is proven true, fraud and forgery out of the executive office in one capacity or another, what do you think should happen?
Well, I don't know. You say out of the executive office. We haven't accused anyone out of the White House, the president. We haven't accused anyone of anything.
It doesn't just happen for no reason. I mean, you know, none of us are stupid in this room. There must be a reason if this is true and the president wanted his birth certificate and selective service card forged, and if this is fraud, what do you think should happen?
I have no idea. I think you're taking it where no one has ever gone before. I don't know about that. I'm not accusing the president. This is on a come. Let's wait and see how we can develop this information on the birth certificate, possible fraud, possible forgery. That's how we came up with this information, which I think is very, very important right now. We want to get to the bottom of this. I think everybody's asking this question. Mr. President, please come up with some other information where you were born. If this isn't true, the birth certificate, come up with some other information, and then everybody will go away. I'll say, I'm sorry, I didn't waste any money on this, but I think, well, at least I stimulated some interest in here, and I think we all win in our country. We don't want this to continue. You know it's been continuing on and on and on. I like to think maybe we're doing something to resolve this problem once and for all. I have nothing against the President of the United States. I respect his position. He works hard. I have nothing against him. But this is something that has to be settled.
So, Sheriff, what kind of action would you take, Sheriff? What kind of action would you plan to take? What can you do from your little public in Maricopa County?
Right now, we want to see if these are forgeries and fraud. We want to find the perpetrators, no matter where those suspects may be.
What would be sufficient evidence for you?
Just like any other forgery case. I think we have a little experience.
For you, for the president to come forward, what else would you like to see him to?
I just would like to see the president, if he can come up with some other document